For 3 days in February 2000, Masayoshi Son was the richest person on Earth, richer than Bill Gates, richer than Warren Buffett, richer than Warren Buffett, richer than any human being alive. His net worth was growing by $10 billion a week. He never got the chance to tell anyone, because 72 hours after he reached the top, the crash began. And in the months that followed, Masayoshi Son lost $70 billion. Not over years, not through a series of mistakes, through one decision, one vision, one bet that consumed everything. This is the story of the man who lost more money than any human in history, and then came back. 1957, Tosu, Japan, a small town in southern Kyushu, a dirt track with no name. Masayoshi Son was born into a family of Korean immigrants, second-generation Zainichi Korean, living in post-war Japan. His family was poor. They kept pigs in their home. They lived on the margins of a society that did not fully accept them. But from the time he was a child, Masayoshi Son had an obsession, not with money, not with status, with the future. At 16 years old, he read about a microchip in a magazine. He stared at the photograph for hours. He later said he wept, because in that tiny circuit board, he saw the entire future of humanity. He moved to the United States at 16, alone, with almost no English. He finished high school in 3 weeks by convincing his teachers he had already studied the material. He enrolled at UC Berkeley. He studied economics, and in his spare time, he invented. He created one of the world's first electronic pocket translators. He sold the patent to Sharp Corporation for $1.7 million. He was 19 years old. In 1981, Masayoshi Son returned to Japan. He rented a small office. He hired 2 part-time workers. He stood on a vegetable crate because he had no podium and delivered a speech to his 2 employees. He told them his company would one day have revenue in 10 billions. He told them they would be one of the most important companies in Japan. He told them he had a 50-year plan. Both employees quit the next day. They thought he was insane. The company was called SoftBank. Through the 1980s and 1990s, SoftBank grew: software distribution, publishing, telecommunications. Son had a gift for seeing what was coming before anyone else. In 1996, he invested $100 million in a struggling startup. Most people had never heard of it. Its name was Yahoo. The bet paid off beyond anything he had imagined. SoftBank's stake in Yahoo became worth billions. Son was celebrated as the most visionary investor in Asia. And then the internet arrived in full force, and Masayoshi Son decided to go all in. Between 1999 and early 2000, Son invested in over 300 internet companies. Not 1 or 2, not a careful portfolio, 300. He was investing at a speed and scale the world had never seen. Some days, he was writing checks for hundreds of millions of dollars to companies he had met for less than 30 minutes. His logic was simple. The internet was the biggest technological revolution in human history. Every company that existed would either adapt or disappear. And the companies built natively for the internet would become the most valuable on Earth. He was right. He was just 10 years too early. At its peak in February 2000, SoftBank's market capitalization hit $180 billion. Masayoshi Son's personal net worth reached $78 billion. For 3 days, he was the richest man in the world. He said later that he never even had time to feel it, because on March 10, 2000, the Nasdaq peaked, and then it began to fall. The dot-com crash did not happen slowly. It did not give people time to react. One by one, the companies Son had backed began to collapse. Webvan, Cosmo.com, Global Crossing, companies that had been worth billions, vaporized. SoftBank stock fell 75% in 2 months. By the end of 2000, it was down 93%. Masayoshi Son's net worth went from $78 billion to approximately $2 billion in less than a year. $70 billion. Gone. Bloomberg would later record it as the single largest destruction of personal wealth in human history. Larger than any market crash, larger than any bankruptcy, larger than anything that had come before. Son sat in his Tokyo office. The phones had stopped ringing. The investors had gone quiet. The press was brutal. He said almost nothing publicly for months. In one of his rare interviews from that period, He was asked how he felt. And then he said, "I still believe in the vision, not the stocks, not the valuations, the vision." Most people would have stopped. Most people would have retreated. Most people would have protected what little remained. Son did the opposite. In 2001, he walked into Japan's telecommunications ministry. SoftBank was nearly bankrupt. He had no leverage, no credibility left with the government. He demanded they approve a new broadband internet network. They refused. He came back. They refused again. He told them, on the record, that he would pour gasoline on himself and set himself on fire in their offices unless they approved the network. They approved the network. SoftBank launched Japan's first mass-market broadband internet service. It became one of the most successful telecom products in Japanese history. And then came January 2000. Just weeks before the crash had reached its worst point, Son had taken a meeting with a 36-year-old Chinese entrepreneur. The meeting lasted 6 minutes. Son handed him a check for $20 million. The entrepreneur's name was Jack Ma. The company was Alibaba. That $20 million investment, the one made in the middle of total financial ruin, would eventually become worth $60 to $80 billion, the single greatest venture capital return in history. By 2014, Masayoshi Son was once again one of the wealthiest people on earth. SoftBank went on to raise the largest private technology fund ever created, $100 billion. He backed Uber, DoorDash, Arm Holdings. He co-led the $500 billion Stargate AI project with OpenAI and Oracle. The man who lost more money than any human in history came back. But here's the part of this story I want you to sit with. In the depths of the crash, when $70 billion had vanished, when his company was on the edge of bankruptcy, when the press was writing his obituary, Masayoshi Son made the investment in Alibaba. Not before the crash, in the crash. At the moment of maximum fear, at the moment when every rational instinct said, stop. He invested anyway. Because he was not investing in a stock price, he was investing in a person, in a vision, in something he believed was true regardless of what the market was saying. Most people make their worst decisions at the worst moments. They sell when they should hold. They stop when they should push. They protect themselves when they should be looking for what is about to be born. Masayoshi Son lost $70 billion, and in the wreckage of that loss, he found the investment that made him a legend. The question is not whether you will face a moment of collapse. You will. Everyone does. The question is, what will you be looking for while everything around you is just falling apart? Next time on this channel, a man who built the 6th largest energy company in America. A man celebrated by Fortune magazine as the most innovative company in the country. 6 years in a row. And every single dollar of it was a lie. Enron, the fraud that rewrote the rules of American corporate law. And the moment the whole thing finally broke, it took less than 16 days.